as you're rolling in, welcome to the webinar. We're gonna, as it says there on the slide, we're gonna begin at 2 after to just allow a few more folks in. But thanks for making some time today to join the webinar. And while we're here, feel free to use the chat. Tell us where you're joining from today. We're based in I'm based in the Netherlands. Martin here is based in Czechia. Also, we'd be curious what industry you're in, perhaps what weather you're getting right now. It's quite cold here in the Netherlands. Feels like winter. We had some snow last night, so let us know.
It's completely same here in Czech Republic or Czechia. Yeah, we have some snow as well. It's actually almost a Christmas time, I would say. So it's looking really nice.
We can only hope for a nice white Christmas. That would be nice.
Yeah, that would be great.
You can briefly see what to expect here. We'll kind of go over the structure of the webinar in a little bit. But let's get started. So today we are going to learn how JDE stays compliant with training requirements. This webinar is hosted by myself, Andrew Soderberg, and Martin Janirek. Am I pronouncing your last name correctly, Martin?
Almost, Andrew. It's Martin Janirek.
Janirek. Okay, all right. Apologies.
It's fine.
So from JDE, and myself, my name is Andrew Soderberg. I am a customer success manager here at AG5. I've been here for about a year and a half, and I work closely with companies like JDE. As the title suggests, my job is to help make sure you're as successful as possible with AG5, really maximizing the benefits and value that you get out of it. So before we get started with the agenda, let's do an open poll. We'd like to understand what your biggest challenge is in maintaining training compliance. We've got some multiple choice options here: keeping up with regulatory requirements, tracking employee certifications and skills, managing training across multiple sites, or relying on manual tools. And if your biggest challenge isn't on this list, please let us know after the poll in the chat. We'd also be interested hearing about that. Okay. And here are our results. Relying on manual tools seems to be the biggest pain point, 67%. Well, actually, that's matched by tracking employee certifications and skills. Also, well, it seems like everyone's having some issues here, but the biggest are tracking certifications and skills and doing that with manual tools. So thank you for the poll. And our session today is going to be about 30 minutes of presentation. We're going to have a 15-minute Q&A session at the end, and questions can be asked anytime through the Q&A feature. And we'll of course answer your questions during the Q&A session. Any questions we don't get to, we'll make sure to answer, but I reckon we'll have time. And we'll be sharing slides and recordings after the webinar. What will you learn by the end of this webinar? Well, we're gonna relay how JDE replaced Excel with AG5, how that helped them tackle inconsistencies with their data, risks with security, and unclear ownership in terms of who's in charge of what team. We'll learn how centralized tools save time, gave them some clear training insights, and how they've aligned their workforce with this to minimize compliance risks. Agenda will be the JDE story. We'll start with how they overcame those compliance and workforce challenges, why they chose AG5, why they're with us, and the results they've seen since implementation. Martin will be guiding us through those points. Then we'll kick it back to me for a live demonstration of several of the features that JDE uses on a daily basis. And then we'll segue into the Q&A. So before I kick it over to Martin, very quickly, our main mission, so what we do at AG5 is we help companies with a frontline workforce visualize and close those skill gaps by mapping skills and training requirements. It says per workstation, but it can be really per anything. So workstations are common, but requirements for job roles, requirements for certain sites, really the sky's the limit. And this ensures the right person with the right skills is put to the right place at the right time, achieving, ideally, optimal efficiency and 100% compliance. So now I'll hand it over to Martin. I'll let him introduce himself properly.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. Well, hello, everyone. I can see we have around 11 participants, which is great. So nice to meet you. As already said, my name is Martin Janirek. I'm working at a JDE currently as a business intelligence and data specialist. I used to work as a training coordinator where I was responsible for the competency management and also for something like a train the trainer. So basically competencies and HR stuff. Yeah,
I'll
and I
stop
was
sharing, Martin, and I'll hand over.
perfect. Yeah, great, great. So let me just quickly do this. Share. Perfect. Great, 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 great. So as I've mentioned, I'm currently a business intelligence and data specialist. And before I move on, a huge thank you to Andrew, Lisa, Jakob, and the rest of the AG5 team for doing this webinar. I'm really honored to actually be the co-host for this one and to share with the rest of the basically world some of the results that we've achieved here in the JDE Valeska. So let's move on. Great. So for those of you who do not know what the JDE stands for, it's Jacobs Douwe Egberts, and we make coffee and tea. JDE is simply a subsidiary of JDE Peet's, the world's leading pure play coffee and tea company. Headquarters is in the Netherlands, and for more than 265 years, JDE has been inspired by the belief that it is amazing what can happen over a cup of coffee. And today, JDE unleashes the possibilities of coffee and tea in more than 100 countries through a portfolio of over 50 brands, so including something like L'Or, Jacobs, Senseo, Tassimo, Douwe Egberts, Old Town, Super, Pickwick, and Moccona. Since I already mentioned Valeska plant, let's quickly take a look where we are based. So we are based in a town called Valeska Meziříčí, which is situated in an eastern part of the Czech Republic. And our plant produces around 35,000 tons of coffee and coffee mixes per year, and we have around 300 workers and 17 lines. So you might be asking yourself, how did you guys stay compliant with training when you have 17 lines and around 300 workers? Well, to give you a little bit of an insight, this is an overlay of one of our lines. So the line itself consists of multiple machines, and we used to track skills on every single machine. So for example, we had skills like practical skills, including quality checks, risk awareness, Lotto 5S. Then some weekly maintenances, quarterly maintenances, changeovers, and let's not forget trainings required by the state. So these used to be the most important skills which we needed to track. Now imagine you have to update these skills for 17 lines. That's just insane, right? So here you can see how the skill matrices used to look like. So employees in rows and skills in columns and rating for each skill. Sadly, you cannot see it here, but this matrix used to have around 200 skills. The second one had around the same number of skills. And this third one, oh, sorry, this is the rating scale. This third one was very special. It had only 23 skills, but it had completely different rating scale. The rating scale consisted of 4 letters, I, L, U, O, and based on what letter you had for each qualification or skill, you were able to do a certain work. So as you can already guess, the only one which was properly used is the last one. The reason is astonishing, simplicity. Even though there was this really weird rating scale, it was very easy to use this matrix. So let's quickly just check all the obstacles that we faced. So the first one is discipline in updating 3 skill matrices, like 200 skills or 420 skills. Takes quite a lot of time to actually update everything. We had multiple rating scales for each matrix. So for each matrix, there was a different rating scale. These skill matrices were on our public disk and they were not locked. So therefore, anybody could simply erase them or change the results. There was also no easy way to check for proof of training. You could go ask HR specialists for a paper proof of a training, but it takes too much time to go through all the papers. And I mean, we are in the 21st century. Paper proof, really? Um, as I hinted earlier, there was no way to check who added the skill result. Therefore, there was this constant stress. Are these results true or fake? Also, there was no clear ownership from team leaders. Some of them didn't even know we have something like a competency management and that they were supposed to add skill results. It was very hard to stay up to date. It was very hard to stay up to date with the employees list, since this again required additional work where you had to rewrite the person 3 times, once per matrix. And as I mentioned earlier, there was insane amount of qualifications and simply for no reason. We have seen people were rather using the very simple skill matrix instead of the detailed one. So as you can see, there was a tons of obstacles which we had to overcome. And in order to overcome such obstacles, you need to find a great partner. So for us, such a great partner is AG5. So AG5 is experienced with software solutions for competency management. Their product is very easy to use. They have broad language support, very nice visualization, and very useful features like Expert Finder, Alert List, or Employees Profiles. I believe we will show these during the demo. Then they're very reliable. They're very transparent about their roadmap and what kind of bugs they're facing. They give perfect support when you write a ticket asking for some kind of a help. Their answer is most of the time comes in 2 days. They're also willing to re-upload your master data, and if you're facing something very challenging, you can always just schedule a call either with your growth manager or with the support team. Their communication was always great, always clear. And oh, sorry. And yeah, and the last one is on-site backend admin, and you're able to have a on-site backend admin, which is really great. That's something which I personally love, probably the most. Just imagine you have a software, but you won't be able to change like libraries or what you can actually see in the matrix. So you would need to basically write a ticket. That's not really convenient, right? It's way good, way better to have an on-site admin who can actually change these kind of stuff. So how are we doing now? Since we implemented AG5 in Valeskin, we have clear ownership. Everybody knows that there is a competency management and that it's important part of our plant. Anytime there is a training, the trainer needs to add the results to the system if their competency is necessary to track, of course. We currently have 29 active users. So that's ranging from managers, shift leaders, people schedulers, training coordinator, or business intelligence data specialist. And we also have two admins who take care of the system. So we went from tracking around 420 skills to only 106 skills. And our system is more clear to anyone who opens the AG5 and needs to find some details about the skill or about skills. We are able to quickly check who had or needs training, since we can use planning or personal requirement feature. We are also able to check who and when added the result to the system, which is also really necessary. Updating results takes just a few minutes, and you don't need to do it multiple times for each matrix. So all you need to do is to do it once, and it's like automatically rewritten to other matrices. And we have no more stress with the competency management, since we don't need to be scared if the matrix is going to get deleted by someone, or if we just, get lost with the personal requirements or something like that. So It's way better with AG5. And that's all. I'm gonna give back the word to Andrew.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Martin. Really appreciate it. Um, really interesting to hear all of that um, firsthand. And yeah, so what we're going to do now is take a look at AG5, do a quick live demo, and we'll show you some of these features that JDE has been using to achieve the desired no stress status. Uh, let me go ahead and share AG5 here now. All right. So, Martin, is my screen visible?
Yes, it is.
Excellent. All right. So what you're looking at here is a matrix. Now, this is a demo account.
Oh,
This
wait,
is
Andrew, you're showing webinar agenda.
webinar agenda. Okay. All right. Let's try this again. How about now?
Perfect.
Blue shift. Excellent. All right. So what we're looking at here is a matrix, an AG5. If you're not familiar with a AG5 matrix, it's a view pane into your data. Let's put it that way. And we're going to have skills on one axis. So on the currently here on the y-axis, we've got skills and we've got employees on the x-axis, which can be inverted. Anyway, so a matrix, why I'm saying it's a view pane into the data is that um, this data, the who's qualified to do a thing. So for example, Freya here, we know for a fact that Freya knows how to operate machine A because we have a result saying that she can do that. That data is actually stored well, it's stored within AG5 against the employee themselves. So if we go to Freya, we can see that she's got operator machine A and also on a skills page. So we could go to the operate machine A skills page and we'll see that information here as well. What that means is that if a matrix is deleted, the data is never deleted. So that's a great thing. And as Martin said, if a matrix is updated, so let's go ahead and add some results here. We've got a significant number of gaps on the machine line know-how skill. So we're going to do this in blue shift. So if we add an individual result, it's as simple as clicking where the gap is. We can see that Jackie, the team leader, is 2 levels too low on this multi-level scale, but we know that she's actually an expert. So we're going to save that. And this information, as Martin said, only has to be added once. If we go to Jackie's page, her employee page, we'll see that that information has been updated. She's now a master. And if we go to a different matrix, so if we go to this one that contains more than one shift, Jackie will be in the blue shift. And here we can see that information has been updated. So only has to be done once. And you'll also notice that this is the main matrix dashboard, so to speak. And you may notice that some of these, this is an administrator view here. You may notice that some of these have faces next to them. So this comes down to ownership. What you're able to do in AG5 is take someone who has basic account rights, and you're able to give them essentially localized admin rights for the skills and employees that are relevant to that matrix. So we can use this to give a team leader access to their team. So if I'm Jackie and I log into AG5, I'll be able to add results for these employees and for these skills. Also, we have some customers that will use this. They'll set up a matrix for an audit and they will give an auditor view access, which really kind of gives that transparency method across. So, let's say we're Jackie and we're logged in to AG5. It's very clear what matrix she should be editing. So she's gonna needs to update machine line know-how for all of these operators, and doesn't really feel like doing it one by one. So it's possible to add multiple results, which is quite a big time saver, especially when you're talking about even more than 19 employees. So we'll set a default. Most of these employees got basic, so we'll do basic. We'll also attach some proof. So we're going to put this document in here, which let's say is a sign-off sheet or something like that. And we'll click next. And this is telling us in summary all the results that will be added. Perhaps one colleague, Caleb, really excelled. So we're going to save these 19 results, and boom, there you go. They're all in. So that's how you close a gap in AG5. It really is that simple. Now, you'll note that nothing else on this matrix is individually shown as a gap. And that's because one thing that JDE uses is capacity planning. And that's what these bars over here on the right are, the bars with the numbers. It's saying we don't care which one of these employees does this, but we need to have 3 people who can do this thing. So this allows a few things. One, it allows a manager the flexibility, real world flexibility they need to determine who is the best fit for this shift-wide requirement. Also, it helps companies ensure they're not overtraining colleagues, right? It's great if everyone was upskilled 100%, but unfortunately, we don't always have the time or resources for that. So if I'm Jackie, I'm like, well, we've got a gap here of 1. I need someone else who can operate machine A. All the operators for A can do it. That's fine. So we're going to pick Bailey. Bailey is going to be our machine A expert. And you can see we've now closed this gap. So we know that Blue Shift has enough people who can operate machine A. Additionally, if you're not ready to create the result, you can create a planning, which is telling AG5 and other administrators that, hey, we know there's a gap, but we're planning to fix it at a later date. So you can create a planning on an individual level. So for Alexander in this skill, we can add a planning, and we're saying we're gonna skill Alexander up to basic by December 25th. So when we do that, a dot shows on the matrix, which is very easy to check. And then it provides some accountability. It's easier for teams to keep track of what's planned versus what's been achieved. It's also possible to see all of this in a flat list, which can be really useful when you're trying to create plannings. Now, for this, this is called the alert list, which is a flat list of all the gaps or problems. Now, because we've closed all of the individual gaps, nothing is showing up here. But if we unfiltered for that matrix and saw a snapshot of the entire organization, we'd see some other problems here. So here we can also create plannings. And what you'll note is this button here, suppress plannings. So if we uncheck this, we'll get the true number of problems. But if we check it, they'll go away. And this allows people to plan out for an entire workforce. So the problems will temporarily be fine unless that deadline, the training deadline that you've just established here when we click add a planning and put a deadline date, if that passes, then it will become a problem again. Feature-wise, a couple of other things that are really important, that were really important for JDE. You'll remember that checking proofs was difficult, and we just added a proof. So if you look at a result on a matrix and we go to details, any proof is right there and available for download. It's also available on employee pages and skill pages. So so if we go to Jackie, we can see that that attachment's right here. And also from a governance standpoint and security standpoint, every page has a history tab. And this history tab will show you from the moment an employee was created, what's been done. We have history tabs for every employee, also for every skill. So any changes to the skill will be uploaded updated. And for administrators, we also have a repository-wide history tab. So you can be sure that everything that's being done, that there's a level of accountability there. And last but probably not least would be once we've got all of this, so we know who's capable of doing this. If we're only looking at this matrix, it's extremely clear, but perhaps we're not entirely sure what to do when one of these employees is on holiday, or maybe we need to move people around to a different shift. AG5 has something called Expert Finder, and this allows us to search for experts based on criteria. So we can say, all right, we need to know who are our most qualified people based on these 9 skills here. And we can see at a glance who are the experts. And if there's any gaps for them to be 100% compliant, it will show that. We can also use this to replace a person. So we could see that Jackie was our expert. Well, shoot, what do we do if Jackie's gone? Who's most qualified to replace Jackie? And at a glance, we can see that. We can add filters to this. We can say, well, that's great, but they've got to be in green shift. There we go. Once the data is in AG5, you'll be able to use Expert Finder to get a great deal of insights about who the right people are. Anything that you think I should touch on, Martin, that I've missed?
I guess you've actually said everything. Maybe something like personal requirements that actually
Ah,
turns red.
excellent. Thank you. Personal requirements. Yes. So this can be very useful when you're using this capacity requirement. As I mentioned, let's say I, as a manager, have decided that Alexander, who we've already made a planning for, needs to be our other maintenance expert. Well, we're going to create a personal requirement. So just for Alexander, these requirements here, any circle that has a line around it means that it's required for some positional tag. So all health and safety managers have to do this. All team leaders have to do this. So what we can do is say, well, Alexander has to do this. So we're going to add this personal requirement, and we're going to say we need him to be an expert. And now it's easy to track that gap, right? That decision that the manager has made in real life to appoint Alexander as our expert is now recorded in AG5. And we know that we also have a gap of 2. So we're going to make Archie our other expert. We're going to add him, add a personal requirement for him there too. So this way you're able to set strict requirements for things that absolutely everyone has to do, non-negotiable, like this line here. And then you're also able to use this capacity planning coupled with planning and personal requirements to flexibly work your shifts to your needs. All right. So that's it for the demo. I'm going to share my slide deck here again. One moment. Um,
So in
and
green, I can see that some of the participants are having some technical problems, but it seems like it's not on our side actually. They're
okay,
asking if they can log out and try to come back.
certainly. Yeah, yeah.
Great.
Yeah, give it a try. So just a quick recap of what we went over. Can you see the quick recap screen here, Martin? Yeah, okay, great. So we discussed capacity requirements, adding results and multiple results at the same time, how that updates matrices automatically, how we're able to assign a matrix to a person to make responsibilities very clear. We showed you the alert list, that flat list of reporting problems and achievements. The history, how it's available both on the matrix, but also on individual pages, how to attach and view proofs, how to create plannings, personal requirements, and finally, how to put that all together and find those experts within your organization. So let's cut to Q&A. What do we
Yeah, we
what
already
do we
have one
have?
question in the chat. It's from, I'm probably not going to pronounce that name correctly, but it's from Jorn. So Martin, how are operators using AG5 and how are you managing e-learnings? So let me start with the second part, managing e-learnings. We currently have a system called SuccessFactors, where the majority of e-learnings is done. It is not connected to AG5 simply because the e-learnings are not really, I don't want to say important to track, but they are being tracked in the SuccessFactors by HR specialists, and we don't really need to track them in AG5 currently. So that's e-learnings. I hope that's enough for that. And how are operators using AG5? It depends what you mean by operators. If you mean by the guys who are really operating on the line, on the machines, or if you're talking about more technical operators who are able to operate, okay, on the line, perfect. So those guys who are on the line do not have an access to AG5. Simply, the reason behind that is that they don't have a email with or company email. That's what it's called. So if you want to connect to AG5, you need to have some kind of an email address. You can use also your personal email, but it is something that we don't require our workers to share with us. Therefore, we don't give them an access to AG5. So they are not working with AG5 at all. But this is all of this stuff that operator would need to do in AG5, it's done by the shift leader. So for example, if he has some gaps, the shift leader checks if there is a gap and he can inform the training coordinator or HR specialist about the gap. Hope that's enough.
I'm seeing a question in the chat. Can the system be used for a smaller size of users and get the same result, or is it meant for a wider or larger size of users, as we showcased one of around 300? Look, that's a great question. If you've got a team of two, maybe you don't need this, but we have many customers who have smaller workforces. If really what it comes down to is, are there skills that you absolutely need to manage, that are critical to the success of the business, or not achieving those skills or the things that you're tracking would open you up to significant risk. So if the answer is yes, you can definitely benefit from AG5. We've got enterprises of thousands of workers, and we've also got many customers who, we're talking 20 to 40 folks. So it really depends more on, how important it is that you manage these skills, that the visibility is clear, that it's very easy to pull this up, especially if there's any sort of audit requirements. That's where you're really going to get the value here. And things like the expert finder, of course, is going to have more value the larger the workforce. It's a bit easier to determine the expert when you know everyone personally and there's only 10. So, to some degree, I think some of these features, the value would scale with the size of the business. But even small companies can get a great deal of value out of AG5. Good question. Thank you. Results instead of employees. Yeah, that's a good question. So if you're curious to know more about pricing, we've got a link after this where you can schedule a demo with one of our sales folks. In general, most of our plans do structure around results. So when I clicked and added a result for an employee saying, hey, they can do this thing, that's one result. So like, for example, when I created the multiple, that was for 19. So that's how we'll contract those. If you have a result-based contract, then there is no limit on the number of employees that you can have in the system. And by employees, I mean user accounts. We would never have any limit on the number of employees that you're tracking. So great question there as well. Range of coverage of AG5. Yeah, we're a SaaS solution, software solution. So it's a web app. It's not like software that you install, which is actually great. It makes it easy for us to support you. It means that you can access it anywhere. All you need is an internet connection, and off you are, off you are to the races. So, um, yeah, it's cloud based.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to say. It's like really good that you guys are actually an SaaS, simply because you don't really need to install anything. And regarding some, cybersecurity stuff, that's really, really, really good for basically every corporate.
Yeah. We can also we also integrate nicely with businesses single sign-on procedures. So if you have that for your company, we can integrate with it so that you know it's secure. I'm not really sure how to answer that question. Bounty, perhaps you could elaborate. Are there any other questions in the Q&A? I'm not
Yeah,
able to see those.
yeah, there are three questions. So let me read the first one.
Okay.
So is a job architecture a requirement for introducing skill management with AG5? I'm not really sure what Karen meant by job architecture.
Yeah, I'm not sure either, but if the question is, do we need to fully understand all of our requirements? No. I mean, we have a number of customers who really have it all figured out, and they're just lifting that in, refining the process and lifting it into AG5. But we've also worked with many businesses where we're really kind of in the infant stages of skills management, right? We're like, oh, well, we're tracking by paper the most important ones, but the rest of it's just kind of the Wild West. That's fine. And in some ways, it can be easier to kind of start from scratch in AG5. So I wouldn't say you have to have it all figured out before you start using it. No.
Then
Um,
there's another one from Karen. Which interfaces are possible regarding main learning management system providers? So like a Cornerstone, SuccessFactors, etc.
oh, so we can integrate with pretty much any learning management system. We've integrated with a lot of the big ones, Cornerstone, SAP, SuccessFactors, um, and so it's the answer is probably yes. If you would like to know more, do book that demo because then our sales experts can have that discussion and get you specific answers. But uh, probably yes. Good one. And what's that
And
third question, Martin?
yeah, the third question is again from Karen, and it's what are best practices regarding skill updating and maintenance from an organizational point of view? So it's probably on me if I understand it
Yeah,
correctly.
please take it.
So best practice regarding skill updating. Simply don't have just one guy who is responsible for everything. Have small team leaders or small teams who are actually responsible for their competencies, and have their manager have an access to competency management. Let him understand how does it work, and let him just update the skills. It saves a lot of time. You might need to invest a little bit of time to the training. You might invest a little bit of a time to with the explanation of how the software works or how the competency management works. But in the end, it pays off really big, to be honest. Like for example, here in Valeska, we have 8 shifts, 300 people in total. And imagine if there was just one guy, a training coordinator, for example, who would need to update all these skills. It would just take the most of his work time, and it doesn't really make sense. It's simply almost like a non-value added activity, in my opinion. So it's easier to just train the team leaders and let them be responsible for the skill updating. And regarding the maintenance, the easiest way is to don't give admin rights or super user rights to everyone who can actually join the web page or access AG5. So simply have 2 admins, maybe 3 admins, depending on how big your competency management is. And that's all.
Awesome. Thanks,
Yeah.
Martin. Um, from Jorn, if we start and import current skills and results, are those counted against the result total? Yes, yes, good question. So if you already have a collection of results in Excel, part of your onboarding process after you sign your contract with AG5, we have an onboarding team that will help you get all of the data you already have into AG5, You're not just going to sign the contract and we'll say good luck. We'll help you out with that. But to your point, yes, any results you currently have that you want to record in AG5, those do count. Yeah. And can we use an API for, yes, we actually, we do have API access to our database, our data lake. Obviously, secure access. We have a REST API, and if you're an enterprise customer, we can provide you an API key, and then you can use that to, yeah, with Power BI or Tableau, create dashboards. Martin himself has done that for JDE.
Yeah, we are currently working on the integration with Power BI or the connection with Power BI. We want to have a simple dashboard where you would be able to see all the, let's say, skill results for each plant. So it's more for like the top management or high management guys, and they will be able to see all the necessary stuff they want to see.
Great questions, folks. Anything else in the Q&A section, Martin?
Nope.
Nope. Alrighty. Well, thank you all very much. We're gonna skip over some of those. Well, actually, let's take a look. Are there any questions here that we didn't address today? I guess, yeah, the first one. What kind of support did JDE receive from AG5 during and after?
After implementation?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we have monthly calls. That's what we have together with Andrew, so with your growth manager. We also have these business review calls where we again discuss with Niels Cornell. Um, Basically a business review if it makes sense to continue with H5. Well, currently it does, so it's working, it's great. Then we have also the possibility to schedule a call whenever we need. And also, if I'm not mistaken, we also have some limits for the tickets, how quickly they are resolved. Um, Also, the support for training, that's also something that was really good. So sorry. So the support for training, that's something that we've or was done by AG5 for us when we've firstly implemented the solution, and basically go through a half-a-day training where you learn how to actually work with AG5 on a simple level, and then you have another training where you will learn how to work with AG5 as an admin. So that was really good, also very, very beneficial.
Thanks, Martin.
Yeah.
I'll take the second one here. So, we often get asked, it kind of goes to a question earlier, do we have to be of a certain size? What's it like with larger companies or smaller companies? So, an AG5 instance, you'll have a repository. So often that's based around a location. So like, for example, JDE Velasca has their own repository. And all the information is stored there. Think of it as a bucket, right? So each repository is a bucket of data. And larger organizations, such as JDE, has several buckets for different locations. And that can often be desirable when there's some variability in how certain plants work. Also, keeping employee data separate. There's value in that, making sure that people don't see more than they absolutely need to see. And we also do have a global solution for really large enterprises where you're able to establish shared skills that all plants should be doing, and then control that through an admin. So it's very easy for us. Well, it's yeah, it's relatively easy for us to scale up. Um, and I guess the next question would be a good one for you, though, Martin. What steps did JDE take to ensure buy-in from team members and stakeholders during the transition to AG5?
It wasn't like super easy. It's always the part where you need to do this change management and make sure that everybody understands why you are doing this. So to be honest, it was not easy, but we have managed to convince pretty much everyone who needs to use AG5 to actually use AG5. How we did that? Well, simply we've showed them what can actually happen. So we took away their skill matrices and they were like, oh my God, where is our skill matrix? How do I get there? Where is it? I cannot find it. Martin, help me. So that's one way how you can actually establish a buy-in. But other than that, you should probably sit with the most active users who you know are going to manage some team who will be responsible for adding the skill results there and actually explain them. Look, you currently work with a Excel scheme matrix where you spend most of the time just, clicking and looking for some stuff. I have a solution for this. It's called AG5, and it can actually save you a tons and tons of time. Do you like it or do you not like it? And that's the simplest way you can do it.
We also work, thank you. We also, our sales teams are well versed in helping our customers calculate return on investment, which can be really valuable when you're trying to secure budget or secure buy-in from higher up stakeholders, right? You want to realize that this investment's going to give you a return. So if that's a discussion you'd like to have, please let our sales teams know. I'll take the last one here. How does AG5 integrate with systems and processes? So we recommend integrating with your HR system if possible. And that means that from an employee details standpoint, the names, email addresses, what positions they have, your HR system would remain the single source of truth, and that information would flow automatically into AG5. Benefit being that that information only has to be updated once, and variability between what's in HR and what's in AG5 would not exist. So that's something we strongly advise, and we can integrate with really any HR system. We can also, this goes back to an earlier question, but integrate with learning management systems so that when courses are completed in the LMS, those results are automatically stored in AG5. So you're not having to click, 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 click. So-and-so watched such and such video. And finally, of course, as I mentioned before, we can integrate with your company's single sign-on standard. Okay. Well, thank you all very much for joining today. If you're interested in learning more and you're not already talking to the good folks on our sales team, please book a demo. It won't actually be with me, despite my face being there. But please please scan the QR code if you're interested in that. And yeah, thank you all so much for joining today.
Yeah, thank you as well, everyone. It was a pleasure, presenting here some of the stuff that we do here in JDE Valeska. And in case you have any questions, you can probably find me on LinkedIn or, just type me some stuff in the chat and we can talk.
Same goes for me. Thanks so much, Martin. Really great having you today.
Yeah, thank you as well, Andrew.
All right. Have a great weekend to
You
everyone.
too. Bye bye bye.